Canada is about to ban 10 Asian countries, and the real reason will shock you completely. Which nation just triggered emergency security protocols that could change immigration forever? 10. Bhutan? Hidden deep in the Himalayas, Bhutan rarely makes global headlines. But this peaceful kingdom is quietly facing unexpected diplomatic tension. Despite its serene image, Canada's recent reviews of travel partnerships have surprisingly put Bhutan under the spotlight. While no official ban has been confirmed, rumors of growing restrictions hint at shifting strategies. What could a tiny, eco-friendly country have done to make Canada pause? One of the key factors is Bhutan's limited diplomatic reach. With no Canadian embassy on its soil and only a few formal treaties in place, direct communication is minimal. Canada's foreign policy often prioritizes clear channels of cooperation, something Bhutan's isolationist model resists. This gap in dialogue can become a problem when safety and international compliance are involved. In times of global uncertainty, even the most peaceful nations can come under scrutiny. There's also the tourism model that makes Bhutan unique. Visitors must pay high daily fees to enter, part of a strategy to preserve its culture and environment. But critics argue this system lacks transparency and may not align with international standards for openness. As global travel policies tighten, these differences can draw unwanted attention. Could Bhutan's pride in self-preservation now become its diplomatic blind spot? 9. Myanmar, far from forgotten. Myanmar has become a nation the world watches with rising concern. Once filled with promise, it now struggles under the weight of internal conflict and international condemnation. Canada, known for its human rights stance, has raised alarms over ongoing violence within the country. As the military holds power and civil unrest grows, trust in Myanmar's governance continues to erode. For Canada, that erosion may soon translate into action. The roots of this tension lie in Myanmar's political collapse. Since the military coup in 2021, democratic institutions have been dismantled, sparking global outrage. Canada has not only condemned the violence, but also suspended aid and imposed sanctions. These moves hint at a broader intention to sever deeper ties, especially in areas like travel and immigration. For a country trying to rebuild trust, this isolation could become a lasting obstacle. Adding to the concern is the refugee crisis spilling across borders. The Rohingya tragedy, with thousands fleeing persecution, placed Myanmar under a harsh spotlight. Canada, having welcomed many refugees in recent years, faces mounting pressure to reassess its travel policies. A potential ban would not just reflect security worries, but also send a message of disapproval. Myanmar, once seen as a nation in transition, now risks being seen as a threat. 8. Pakistan. When it comes to security concerns, few countries have stirred as much debate as Pakistan. From tense regional conflicts to internal unrest, its global image has long been tied to unpredictability. For Canada, this reputation is no longer just a headline issue, but a policy challenge. Rising worries about extremist networks and inconsistent travel documentation have pushed Pakistan into the conversation. The path to restriction may not be far behind. One of the main issues is visa processing. Canada has reported multiple delays and irregularities in verifying documents from Pakistani applicants. These administrative barriers not only slow down immigration systems, but also raise red flags about potential loopholes. With growing demand and limited resources, Canada may be opting for tougher restrictions instead of more complicated workarounds. Efficiency often outweighs diplomacy when national safety is involved. Diplomatic relations have also seen their fair share of turbulence. While trade and cultural exchange remain active, political tensions flare when security issues emerge. Events like controversial arrests, espionage claims, or even cyber incidents, can suddenly strain cooperation. In such a climate, a travel ban could be framed as a protective measure rather than a punishment. For Pakistan, proving trustworthiness might soon matter more than history. 7. Vietnam. Vietnam has earned global praise for its rapid growth and modernization, but not all attention is positive. Beneath its rising economy lies a growing concern over digital threats and surveillance. Canadian officials have quietly noted a spike in cyber activity linked to Vietnamese networks. These digital footprints have triggered alerts, pushing Vietnam closer to a spot on Canada's high-risk list. In a world increasingly shaped by data, virtual threats carry real consequences. Trade tensions have added fuel to the fire. As Vietnam becomes a key player in global manufacturing, disputes over exports and intellectual property have emerged. Canada, focused on fair trade and security, sees these issues as more than economic noise. They shape how countries are treated diplomatically, especially when transparency is in question. When trust in trade fades, it often spills over into migration and travel. Human rights also play a key role in this tightening relationship. Vietnam has been criticized for suppressing dissent and restricting freedoms, a stance that clashes with Canada's core values. When diplomatic pressure fails, countries like Canada turn to policy tools like sanctions or travel limitations. It's a way of drawing a line without engaging in direct confrontation. For Vietnam, these quiet tensions may soon turn into very real barriers. 6. Indonesia. With its stunning islands and booming tourism, Indonesia might seem like an unlikely candidate for travel restrictions. But behind the paradise lies a mix of challenges that are raising eyebrows in Canadian policy circles. From frequent natural disasters to safety incidents affecting tourists, concerns are mounting. Canada, always alert to the well-being of its citizens abroad, is now rethinking its approach to this Southeast Asian giant. Sometimes beauty hides instability. Indonesia's history with terrorism also plays a critical part in this story. Though major incidents have declined, past attacks still shape international perceptions. Canadian intelligence remains cautious, especially regarding travelers heading to or from certain regions within the country. It's not just about current threats, but the risk of sudden escalation. That risk is enough to justify increased scrutiny and possibly tighter restrictions. Health. Risks add yet another layer of complexity. From dengue outbreaks to concerns over pandemic preparedness, Indonesia's public health challenges can impact global travel policies. Canada, still fresh from managing its own health crisis, is prioritizing preventive strategies. When a nation presents multiple overlapping risks, even indirectly, officials are more likely to act decisively. For Indonesia, the pressure to meet international standards is now more urgent than ever. Bangladesh. Often overlooked on the world stage, Bangladesh has quietly entered the radar of Canadian policymakers. With one of the highest population densities on the planet, the country faces intense pressure on infrastructure and regulation. These internal struggles sometimes spill into global concerns, especially when it comes to migration and border control. Canada, facing its own immigration challenges, is watching closely. A future ban might not be about hostility, but about capacity. Labor rights have become a sensitive flashpoint. Bangladesh's massive garment industry has drawn heavy criticism for unsafe working conditions and labor exploitation. Canada, a strong advocate for ethical sourcing, faces increasing pressure to respond. While trade policies address some of these issues, travel restrictions offer another tool. Cutting off easy access can be a symbolic and practical move to demand reform. What starts in factories can end at the border. Environmental instability is another factor pushing Bangladesh up Canada's list. With frequent floods and rising sea levels, the country is considered highly vulnerable to climate change. These conditions have triggered waves of displacement, increasing the number of people seeking refuge abroad. Canada's immigration system, already under strain, is evaluating the long-term impact. In times of crisis, even the most sympathetic nations may start closing their doors. The Philippines, known for its vibrant culture and strong ties to Canada, is now facing unexpected diplomatic friction. Despite a large Filipino community thriving in Canadian cities, recent political shifts have raised questions. Canada is increasingly concerned about governance issues and controversial domestic policies that clash with its values. What was once a relationship built on migration and friendship is now showing signs of strain. Even long-standing allies can find themselves on thin ice. One of the key complexities lies in the overseas Filipino worker system. Millions of Filipinos work abroad, including thousands in Canada, supporting both economies. But with rising reports of worker exploitation and bureaucratic confusion, Canada is re-evaluating its role in the system. It's not just about helping workers arrive, but ensuring they are protected once they're here. Without reforms, even friendly policies can turn restrictive. Human rights have also entered the conversation. From harsh drug war tactics to suppression of dissent, the international community has voiced concern over recent years. Canada, proud of its human rights record, finds it harder to justify open doors when serious allegations go unaddressed. A potential travel ban would be more than political. It would be a statement. The Philippines now stands at a crossroads where national pride meets international pressure. Iran's relationship with the West has always been marked by tension, and Canada is no exception. With diplomatic ties severed since 2012, the two nations operate at arm's length. But recent developments, including allegations of foreign interference and security threats, have reignited Canadian concerns. Iran's growing influence in global conflicts and its firm stance against Western policies make it a constant topic in national security circles. The risk is no longer theoretical. Sanctions have long been Canada's tool of choice, targeting Iranian officials, businesses, and institutions. But talk of a travel ban brings the situation to a new level. It suggests not just a political disagreement, but a deep mistrust of intentions and systems. Iranian nationals, including students and families, are already facing tighter scrutiny at ports of entry. The message is clear. Caution now outweighs diplomacy. Adding urgency to the matter are the unresolved human rights violations within Iran. From crackdowns on protests to limitations on women's freedoms, the global outcry has been loud. Canada, aligning its policies with these concerns, is under public pressure to act decisively. A travel ban would serve as both a protective step and a moral position. For Iran, this could mean another door to the West quietly closing. 2. India. What was once a strong and growing relationship between Canada and India has taken a dramatic turn. Diplomatic tensions erupted after serious allegations were made involving interference in Canadian affairs. What followed was a storm of statements, visa suspensions, and international headlines. Trust, once the backbone of collaboration, has started to crack. And in the midst of this fallout, travel policies are shifting rapidly behind the scenes. Security is now at the center of every conversation. Canadian officials have raised alarms about foreign influence operations, targeting not only politics, but communities and institutions. These claims have sparked a wave of internal reviews, and India's role has become a recurring concern. What began as political drama is now reshaping how Canada treats high-volume travel from India. The line between national interest and cultural connection is growing thin, yet the stakes are even higher because of the people involved. India is one of the top sources of international students and skilled workers in Canada. Thousands of families, live between both nations, tied together by migration. A full travel ban would create chaos, but partial restrictions are already becoming a reality. In the name of sovereignty and security, Canada may be willing to sacrifice convenience and even friendship. On China, few countries have shaped global headlines like China, and Canada's relationship with this powerful nation is under intense pressure. Recent years have been marked by espionage allegations, trade disputes, and diplomatic standoffs. From the arrest of high-profile executives to interference in elections, trust has been deeply shaken. What was once framed as a strategic partnership now feels more like a cautious standoff. And as that tension builds, travel is one of the first frontiers to tighten. Canada has become increasingly vocal about concerns over national security, with Chinese state-backed influence seen as a growing threat. This has led to new restrictions on research collaboration, student visas, and even technology sharing. Officials are also reviewing traveler profiles more aggressively, flagging risks that were once overlooked. With surveillance fears rising, even tourism is being scrutinized through a security lens. China's global reach is now seen as a double-edged sword. Human rights remain another pillar of Canada's changing stance. Beijing's actions in Hong Kong, the treatment of Uyghurs, and limitations on free expression have triggered international backlash. Canada, positioning itself as a defender of human rights, faces domestic and global pressure to respond more firmly. A travel ban would mark a significant shift, signaling that even economic giants must meet ethical expectations. For China, the cost of power may be growing isolation. So after seeing these 10 countries, do you think Canada is making the right move, or is something bigger happening behind the scenes? Let me know your thoughts, especially if you're from one of the countries we mentioned. And where in the world are you watching this from? Click on the video that's now appearing on your screen. It gives even more context to what's really going on. And share this with someone who plans to travel soon. They need to be prepared for what could change overnight.